Hi viewers, I just recently acquired another legendary watch from Doxa. This is probably the most iconic one. It's the Sub 300T, and I just want to have a quick look at this and go over what makes this one so iconic. So let's quickly go over the specs first. The case size on this is 42.5mm diameter. The thickness is 14mm, lug width is 20mm, and the lug to lug is just 44.5. It's got quite short lug to lug measurement, which is good because it really wears well on the wrist. Now the case size is fairly large, but obviously most of that is made up with the cushion style effect on there. If you look at the actual bezel, that's quite compact. That just measures just over 38mm. So even though it's 42.5 sounds quite big, it doesn't wear like that. It's very compact actually. Now this particular Doxa model is a reissue of the Sub 300 from 1968, and the name 300 comes from the fact that it was initially a 300-meter water resistant dive watch, which is pretty decent anyway, but this particular model has a water resistance of 1200 meters, which really is quite exceptional and more than anyone would need. The movement that powers this Doxa is nothing special. It's the good old workhorse ETA 2824, but it has been modified by Doxa, and of course it is super reliable, very accurate, all you need really. The power reserve is 38 hours, and as you can see this has the date complication as well. This does have a screw down crown that's really well protected into the case. Really lovely action. Super smooth. Date change is very slick as well. Now this is the third Doxa watch that I've reviewed on this channel, and I am beginning to understand why there is such a big fan base for this brand. There is something really quite special about Doxa watches that's difficult to explain until you have one in your hands. I do like a unique watch. I don't like outlandish unique, but I do like something that's a bit different to the run-of-the-mill, and Doxa watches could not be accused of being ordinary. They're so distinctive, maybe not to everyone's taste, but you start to really appreciate the design that goes into their dive watches. It really is all about functionality, but super build quality as well. So much thought goes into the design of the watch. Yes, it's all about professional diving and really is a tool watch. The bright orange dial on this one is for super legibility. You've got the rotating bezel, which has your standard markings on the inner dial for the minutes, but you've got the no decompression scale as well on the outer dial, and it is a super slick bezel. It really turns with great quality, 120 clicks with no play at all. Lines up perfectly. And another outstanding feature of Doxa watches are the bracelets. The quality of this bracelet is obvious as soon as you hold it. It really is a nice example of beads of rice, just the best you can get really. It drapes beautifully, has a silky feel to it. The pins are screw pins. The surface is brushed on the outer links, and then these beads are polished, and it just feels marvellous. The clasp is milled, has the jellyfish on there, and unlike the other two Doxas I've reviewed, the Sub 600 and the Sub 200, got this sliding extension here, which is great. But Doxa really are pulling out some fantastic dive watches, and the different models, well, the ones I've looked at on this channel anyway, they all are very distinct in their own way. This is much more of a professional tool dive watch. The Sub 600 is professional as well, but a very different shape, chunky, thick, but equally beautiful. And then you've got the Sub 200, which is much more of a combination of dress and dive, and it's a great middle ground for someone that doesn't really want a proper tool watch, but a bit of both. But this really screams tool watch in so many ways. But with the polished surfaces going with the brush surfaces, it just gives it that little bit of extra bling that just makes it a bit more classy than a standard tool watch. And personally, I absolutely love it. I think they've got it just right. The dial is fantastic. The indices, they may not be applied, but the paint is so thick that it has a three-dimensional feel to it anyway. And the hands, look at how thick the paint is applied on those hands. It's just magnificent, really so well finished. And again, super legible. The minute hand is much thicker and longer than the hour hand, so you can't mistake the two. And then the second hand with that little rectangle on the end, just so well thought out. So I'll just put it on the wrist, show you how that looks. You see how that curves around the wrist, just sits perfectly. The beads of rice bracelet is super comfortable, just lovely. What I love about this watch is it really stands out, but not in a garish way. It's so distinctive and just really looks very classy. But it's so practical as well. It's not just a luxury watch, it's a very, very high-end tool watch. Fantastic. Okay, I'll quickly show you the loom now, because that's pretty decent. It's much better than the Sub 200 that I reviewed. So let's have a look at that now. You see it's pretty bright, glows quite a long time, and does the job. All the markers are loomed, and the hands, and also the second hand. But there's no loom pip. Now this is the Doxa 300T. There is the Doxa Sub 300 with the COSC certified chronometer status. Everything is pretty much the same, apart from the fact that the glass, the sapphire, is domed on the 300, which personally I really do love. I wish they did that on this one as well. But the extra cost, okay, you are getting a chronometer, but it's a lot more money than this standard 300T, so I'm not even sure if it's worth paying the extra. But yeah, I do love the box dome on that one. But other than that, this watch is just wonderful. I totally understand the love for these watches. Let's just have a quick look at that dial in a bit more detail. You can see the paint there is just so sharp, very deep glossy black. The printing is perfect. Superb. Then the bezel, I love the combination of the polished outer ring and the brushed inner ring. Looks great. Got a signed crown. As you can see, the lugs are brushed on the top but polished on the sides. Quick look at the case back. Very well finished. Screw down. very solid. The whole watch, the build quality is super solid. This model does have the helium escape valve on the side as well. Wonderful, unique design on this watch. So that's just about it for this. The Doxa 300T, a very iconic and beautiful watch with so much history and heritage. I hope you enjoyed having a look at this one. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.